Okay, the last thing that we need to talk about before we can wrap it up is the constructor. So let's create a new file called example constructor solidity. Let's copy over the stuff that we need as a scaffolding and contract example constructor curly brackets. And let's create an variable of the type address, public my address. So as we know from before, if we are going to deploy this, then it will be the 0 address. It will be initialized with its default value. Now, of course, we could go ahead and write a function, set my address to an address, my address, public my address is my address, or we could even go ahead and set my address to message sender. So we can set this to the message sender. When we deploy this, then we can set this either to something that we want, or we set this to the message sender, and then it's going to be the message sender. But if we want to assign our address, the ones who deployed the smart contract to my address, then we could do this. But if we want to assign it directly at the deployment time to another address, then we would have to actually call 2 transactions. So we cannot make this a variable that is assigned during deployment. We would have to deploy the smart contract. This is exactly where the constructors are coming in. So what is a constructor? A constructor is a function, a special function that is called constructor. It doesn't have the function keyword, and it accepts the kind of arguments, some address. It has no visibility specifier, and it just has curly brackets. And the special thing about a constructor is it is directly called during deployment of a smart contract, and it is called only once and cannot be called afterwards again. It cannot be overloaded, which is something we might gonna dig into later. And it is automatically called. You cannot not call it. So if we are going to set our my address to some address, then we get, when we try to deploy this now, we get over here, we suddenly get an argument that we can provide. So let's say we want to copy this address over here and paste it here. You can copy any kind of address you want to, but then our my address is suddenly the address that we pasted over here into the argument field during deployment. Yeah. And that's basically everything I wanted to discuss with the constructor. You will see it later on when we do tokens, or when you have a look at any smart contract samples online. There's tons of constructors. They are used very heavily to assign values to storage variables or do stuff during deployment of a smart contract, like assign owners and other things. So let's wrap it up, and I will see you in the next lecture.